Good morning. Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad that you could all join us this fine Thursday morning, actually. So everyone is doing well. Apologies for starting a few minutes late. We did have some fundamentals that were coming out, but we did need to adjust our watch list slightly. So yes, we're a good number now, so we should be able to start. So hello everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Mitch Kaniaro, and I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, you do know during these webinars, we as the Afriforex team, we analyze the market, we identify what trading opportunities we will be looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So as usual, do have John in the back office. Remember, he was here yesterday, so he will be here in the back office today, assisting you in whatever questions or queries you might have. So feel free to ask those questions either, excuse me, either in the Q&A section or in the chat box, and I will get a response. But remember, if you'd like me to address any questions, kindly ask those questions in the Q&A section, and I will be addressing them at the end of the webinar. So we can jump straight into it. So as usual, we'll start off with our watch list. So our watch list today, can see there's been a slight change to what we're looking at. So yesterday, we were looking for buying opportunities on the Japanese yen as well as the US dollar. And we were looking to mix and match those pairs with all the pairs on the sell side. So that's every other pair. So that's the New Zealand dollar, the British pound, the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, as well as the euro. Now you can see today we've had a slight change in terms of the pairs that we're going to be looking at. Yesterday, we did have a lot of fundamentals for the US dollar, which did end up moving it from the buy side back to the sell side. So we'll be looking for selling opportunities today. And we do have two pairs at least have moved to the buy side. So we do have the New Zealand dollar as well as the Swiss franc. So our focus is going to be looking for buying opportunities on the yen, the New Zealand dollar, and the Swiss franc. And we're going to mix and match those pairs with all the other pairs on the sell side. So the British pound, the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, the euro, as well as the US dollar. So before we do focus on today's pairs, we'll end up having a look at the pairs that we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. We'll see what did happen, how we could have taken advantage of those trades, as well as learning from these experiences. So we'll start off here with the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. We can clearly see the sales really did work out quite well. You can see the three areas John had highlighted, looking for selling opportunities within this particular area. We did see the market probing much earlier in the morning, and the price was starting to pull back in this particular area. Just before 10 o'clock, that's when the market did start to move to the downside. But it did end up giving us a very nice selling opportunity then. We did miss that trade. Remember, we keep on mentioning, once we do get the price breaching, either wait for a hold within this particular area, or the price will end up coming back to hold within that location, giving you another selling opportunity, which you can see did confirm that this level was broken and the market did manage to continue going down lower. But today, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list. The New Zealand dollar is also meant to be showing a strength. Just because this price is coming down, it just means that the yen is much stronger than the New Zealand dollar. But if you do end up having a look at this pair, the fact that we are right now within some sort of range, just bouncing between these levels, we're not necessarily too sure. We continue to look for selling opportunities here. And that's the reason why we'll not be focusing on this currency pair today. So moving on to the next pair for review, we did have the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. Similar situation. Our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Can see the areas that John had pointed out. Similar situation, the market gave a probe. We did end up getting a pullback slightly earlier. This was around 8:45, just before the Frankfurt market opened. But you can see at 10 o'clock where the price was, it had actually just breached this area to the downside. So if we do end up having a look at this currency pair on the 3-minute time frame, looking within that particular location, you can see the areas that we keep on pointing out. The fact that the market was able to break this area to the downside. You can see every other time it attempted, there was no proper hold. But once the price was able to break this area to the downside, you can see we did get a pullback. This is around 10:30, giving us a very nice selling opportunity on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So the trade worked out quite well. During the US session, nothing much happened because you can see from 3 o'clock, this market has been ranging within this area. And you can see it has attempted to try and come down lower, but you can clearly see we're still within this small kind of range that's appearing here. And that's the reason why for today, we're not going to be focusing on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So hope that's clear and guys were able to take advantage of that yesterday. The yen pairs really did move quite aggressively. But now the US dollar pairs did not necessarily perform as well as we had hoped for. You can see we do have the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the market did come down very, very aggressive during the Asian session. Now, what we had wanted to see was some sort of pullback. You can see at 10 o'clock, and John had pointed out the fact that we're within this seller's area, we might see the market attempting to come down lower, which you can see at 10, it did attempt to try and come down, but the sellers were not necessarily strong enough, and the buyers did end up starting to give us a pullback. Once the price did end up coming up, we're hoping to see within this particular area that the market would actually start coming down. This was during the US market open, so between 3 and 4:30, the price was holding within this particular area. Wanted to see the price come down lower, but you can see this was around 9 o'clock. And remember, yesterday at 9, so if you do end up having a quick look at the fundamentals of what happened at 9 o'clock yesterday, we did have some interest rates, the Fed interest rate decision for the US. So you'll find that that's when the fundamentals did end up changing for the US dollar, bringing in a lot of weakness, because you can see the way this price did manage to go up higher. Even though the price is still holding within this area, we're giving us a number of probes. This is a pair that could potentially give us issues today, and that's the reason why it is off our watch list. Now, moving on to the next pair, we did have the US dollar against Canadian dollar. Similar situation, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. But you can see this pair actually did end up falling off the watch list later on. So at 10 in the morning during the London market open, we did see the market giving some sort of probe coming back in. Wanted to see whether or not we could end up actually seeing some aggressive buyers coming back in. Unfortunately, they did not. The market actually started coming down lower at 3 or going close to 3 o'clock. We were back within this buyer's area. Wanted to see a slowdown of these sellers and some sort of sign that the buyers are going to come back. But we did not see that. And once the price breached and held below this particular area, this pair did fall off our watch list. So unfortunately, as soon as it did that, there was no opportunity for us on the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. Now, moving on to the next pair, we did have the euro against the US dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Might have been a bit difficult to get, but remember, we always talk about the market structure being a very important thing. And if you do realize, we seem to be in a range bouncing between these levels. So obviously, we did want to look for selling opportunities higher up where the sellers are. During the London market open, we're hoping to see the price coming down, which it looked as if it was attempting to break this area to the downside and hold below. Unfortunately, could not hold, where the buyers managed to start coming back in. Came back all the way till the sellers. At 3 o'clock, it looked as if it was attempting to break this area to the downside, but it ended up just coming down very aggressive. There was no real opportunity unless you're very, very aggressive trying to grab your selling opportunity higher up. But within this probe, the market never actually gave us that pullback until later on today, where you can see the market has come back. But if you look at the way the sellers came down yesterday, and right now the way they're attempting to come down, they don't necessarily look that strong. This is a pair that could potentially give us issues, potentially stay or within this particular range, due to the fact that both the euro and the US dollar are both on the same side. So that's the reason why this is a pair that for today is going to be off our watch list. So last but not least, we did have the British pound against the US dollar. Similar situation. Yesterday, our bias on this kind of pair was to look for selling opportunities. There was a short sell that did end up working out yesterday, where you can see the market gave a huge probe right here, where the market actually, once it came back in, you can see the price was holding below. So at 10 o'clock, that's when the market actually ended up taking off to the downside. You can see the areas that we point out, making sure to manage your trade within these locations. You can see the buyers did end up reacting. Later on as well, it attempted to do the same thing, giving us another selling opportunity. But you can see at 9 o'clock, that's when the US dollar got a lot of weakness, where you can see the price going to the upside. Right now, even though you're seeing this price attempting to come down, you can see we're within a range. So obviously the best place to look for your selling opportunities is at the top of the range. Right now, this price is coming down mainly because we did have some British pound fundamentals, as you can see for today. So we do have some GBP news here, some nationwide HPIs, which is bringing in this weakness. However, don't necessarily look to try and sell overall the British pound just yet. You can see we do have some very high impact news at 2 p.m. They're also giving us the unemployment rate, the interest rates as well that are going to be coming out, as you can see right here at 2. So do end up expecting a lot of volatility on the British pound pairs. Could easily find these prices coming down, then they end up shooting to the upside, just inciting many people to sell. And that's the reason why for today, there's a pair that's going to be off our watch list. So that's it for all the pairs for review. So we're going to jump on to today's pairs. We're going to focus, or at least start off with the Japanese yen pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the sell side, do the same thing with the New Zealand dollar, before we do the same thing with the Swiss franc. Then we will have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. But remember, guys, if you do manage to take any setups based on things that we do share, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are right there in the chat box. So we'll start off here with the British pound against the Japanese yen. So you did mention that the yen pairs really did take off. Similar situation yesterday. 10 o'clock, the market did actually end up breaking this area to the downside. Small hold. This one would have been a bit difficult to get. But you can clearly see the market really started taking off later on. During the US session, nothing much, but you can see the profit is actually continuing to come to the downside. Remember, we had a look at the New Zealand dollar against the yen, where we're just ranging. Similar situation with the Swiss franc against the yen, just a range. And that's the reason why it is off our watch list for today. But focusing on the British pound against the yen, you can see the market has been able to break this area to the downside. So overall, we'll definitely be looking for sells. Still looking for sells based on these three areas. You can see right now, we're within a very nice area of interest, within an area of support, where you can see right now it's an area of resistance. So wait to see what kind of probe or price action signal we can end up getting here. Ideally, if you have done one of our courses, you should be able to understand how to be able to grab these selling opportunities within this location. It's not yet ready, but remember, the market opening time gives you some catalyst for the prices to move. So overall, for the British pound against the yen, we will be looking for selling opportunities. I think this one is pretty clear cut. Ideally, the way the market is trending to the downside of breach of support and resistance area. Right now, we're in this resistance area. Hopefully, we do end up getting some sort of sign that the sellers will come in for us to look for a sell, making sure to manage our trade within this price area. But remember, if this level doesn't hold, you could still easily find the prices. It does end up holding the upside, still coming all the way to this particular location, giving us some sort of probe or price action signal before you do find the selling opportunities coming in. So this is the first area of interest we'll be looking at. If we don't see the big boy sellers coming in, we'll be looking to see whether or not we can grab those sells higher up within the aggressive energy. So I hope that's clear for you on the British pound against the Japanese yen. So moving on to the next Japanese yen pair. We do have the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Similar situation in this kind of pair. Yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the market did manage to break this area to the downside. We do end up going down to the 3 minute. Because remember, you can be able to see the more detail on the smaller time frame. You can see the level that we had, at least John had put yesterday, was right there. And you can see the fact that the price was able to break this area to the downside and give you a hold. And you can see it was holding there for quite a while, which did end up giving you some time to actually be able to look for that selling opportunity. And you can see the price really did go to the downside. So that's ideally what we usually mean sometimes when the prices breach and hold below a certain area. So overall, the price did manage to come down, which is very nice. We did get a slight pullback and the prices have attempted to come down again. But overall today, bias is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. So we will be focusing on these three areas for ourselves. Right now, we're so close towards this bias area. So it's not a good place to look for your selling opportunities just yet. Hopefully, we can end up getting the price giving us a pullback, coming back within this particular support and resistance area. So we do see the way the prices are coming down, or at least coming up slowly. We do see the same thing. Once we do end up seeing some sort of aggressive sellers coming in, especially if we do end up seeing a very nice probe and it confirms that the price is holding below, then we can end up looking for a very nice selling opportunity on this kind of pair. But remember, if this level doesn't hold, we could even be coming all the way back up to where the main sellers did start their push down from, for us to still look for those selling opportunities. But for right now, let's try and get as far away from this buyer's area as possible. Let's get as close as possible to this seller's area. Let's hope we can end up seeing some sort of probe or price action signal for us to jump in on a selling opportunity. But remember, watch out for support and resistance areas. So even though we have mentioned all these locations, if you're able to read the story or at least the pullback properly, you can even identify. Right now, we're also still within a small support and resistance area. Just because we have these areas highlighted, that doesn't mean the market might not necessarily react within this location. It all depends on whether or not the big boy sellers actually show some interest. But right now, since they've not shown their cards yet, ideally we will be waiting to see if we can grab those selling opportunities a bit higher up. So hope that's clear. The Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. As we move on to the next kind of pair, which is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. Similar situation, you can see the same correlation coming in with all these yen pairs, where the markets probed around 10 o'clock, the markets actually breached to the downside. 10:30, they took off again to all the way down lower. That similar situation during the US session, nothing much did end up happening. So the main trades did end up working out during the London session yesterday. But today, bias here is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. So we'll be focusing on these three areas, potentially grab a selling opportunity here on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So right now, we did end up getting the price breaching this support and resistance area. You can see the price attempting to hold below this particular location. So hopefully we'll be able to see if we can grab a selling opportunity within this particular area. But there's no sign that the sells are there just yet, because you could end up easily finding this price. If it does break to the upside and holds above, it will be coming all the way till this main seller's area before we do find the price coming down lower. But remember, if we are able to get even some sort of incitement, so the price looks as if it's going to the upside, we see it coming down and holding below, then definitely we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities on the Canadian dollar against the yen. Make sure you manage your trade within this buyer's area down here. If you're able to get the price breaching and holding below, then we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So wait to see what ends up happening. But for now, let's just be a bit patient. We don't know whether or not this is an actual breach or a hope that will end up coming in within this location. So hope that's clear in the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. As we move on to the next yen pair, which we do have, you can clearly see we do have the euro against the Japanese yen. Similar correlation. Remember, we did have support and resistance area right here yesterday within this particular location. At around 10 o'clock, the market, that's when it started coming to the downside. You can see once we did also get the price breaking and holding below this small support and resistance area, there was a small hold where it does seem that the market actually started attempting to hold below. So if you remember, we can be able to look at those details on the 3-minute time frame, and you can see the same thing. Once the price broke below this support and resistance area, you can see once the price was holding there, it did give us a very nice selling opportunity as well. So that trade worked out quite nicely, or at least the yen pairs have really been showing a lot of strength. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for selling opportunities on the euro against the Japanese yen. So we'll be focusing on these three areas to look for selling opportunities. So we have the aggressive sellers area right there. You can see the same correlation coming in with all these yen pairs. So right now, we're pulled back towards an area of interest within our support and resistance area. So if we do end up seeing some aggressive sellers coming in on one of the pairs, have a look at the other pairs. You could end up easily finding the market's reacting the same way. You can see the market look exactly the same as they did yesterday, and you can see how far they did manage to continue coming down lower. So the fact that they all look pretty similar, you can see on the pullbacks, we will be pretty much be waiting to see the exact same thing. You can see some aggressive sellers coming in. We could end up finding some nice selling opportunities on the euro against the Japanese yen. So hope that's clear in the euro against the yen. As we move on to the next currency pair, which we do have, which is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, in this currency pair, similar situation. Our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. It's a brand new entry on our watch list, but you can clearly see how strong the yen pairs were coming in yesterday. So overall, the correlation is pretty much similar. As you can clearly see, they all look pretty much the same. So it's me sounding like a broken record. Ideally, saying the exact same thing because the story is the same. Right now, we're pulled back up. Want to see some sort of aggressive sellers. You can see as the buyers came up, this is not the main seller who did manage to push this area to the downside. You can clearly see whenever the market gives a pullback, you'll see some sort of aggressive reaction first that will end up giving you a sign that you can end up being able to look for the sell. So right now, since we've not seen those aggressive sellers yet, we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Either the price will get all the way to the top, or we might end up getting some sort of probe coming in. And the price holds below, we should be able to continue looking for those selling opportunities. But we do need to make sure that we see the aggressive sellers coming in first. So I hope that's clear on the yen pairs. Pretty much similar story on all of them. So that's mixing up the yen with all the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to do the same thing with the New Zealand dollar pairs, then move on to the Swiss franc pairs. So we'll start off with the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. Now, on this currency pair, our bias is a brand new entry on our watch list. Our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. So you can see three areas that we haven't been able to identify. Aggressive sellers all the way right there at the top. Did have a support and resistance area right here in the middle. And the fact that we have a buyer's area at the bottom where the price seems to have been holding for quite a bit. So right now, obviously, we do want to end up looking for selling opportunities. You can see the flow of the market to the downside. What we want to see, even though the price looks as if it's breaking this area to the downside, it has not been confirmed yet. Remember, the main story we want to see is if we can end up getting a pullback coming in and the price shows evidence that it's holding below, then that's when you can end up being able to look for a selling opportunity. But remember, the markets easily probe certain areas. So if you see the price coming back in, where it does end up coming in very aggressive, and you see the price holding above within this area, there's a possibility that this price here is not good enough, and you could easily find the market attempting to come up within this seller's area then we could end up actually finding the selling opportunities working there. And remember the market opening times 10, 3, and 4:30. But right here, dealing with the British pound, and remember at 2 p.m., there's going to be some fireworks in the British pound pairs. There's going to be a lot of volatility. So do make sure if you're in on a trade before then, do make sure you've managed your trade. If you're not yet in on a trade, possibly just wait so that the market ends up reacting. Because remember, once those fundamentals come out, the spreads are going to end up increasing. There's going to be a lot of volatility, but the main direction where the market is going to go is not yet being decided just yet. So you do have time to actually be able to enter your trade. So you don't need to enter your trade as soon as the news event comes up. You will end up getting some bad pricing as well. So be patient. Let's wait to see whether or not we can end up getting those pullback. The price holding below, then we definitely know that this level is broken, and we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities. So hope that's clear on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. So moving on to the next New Zealand dollar pair, we do have the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, brand new entry on our watch list, and overall, our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. So we have identified 3 areas of interest that we could see the market reacting from. So right now, we're back within an area where they're buyers. So as usual, since we are looking for selling opportunities, we do not want to sell where they're buyers. Ideally, we need 1 of 2 things to happen. Either this level is breached to the downside. So remember, if we do end up getting the price breaking and giving us a pullback and holding below, then that's when we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities. Similar story with the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. But if you realize, right now, the market structure seems to be in a range. So obviously, if the market is ranging, the best place to look for your selling opportunities is at the top of the range. And the fact that the market hasn't gone yet could easily find that, especially with ranges, certain probes end up happening. But as long as you find the market actually holding below the seller's area, you could definitely end up looking for sales. If the price breaks and holds above, chances are we could be coming back up towards the seller's area right here at the top. Ideally, it looks like it's just an area out of nowhere, but if we do end up zooming out, we will be able to see that this is a major support and resistance area, according to a larger time frame that the price did reach this area to the downside. So there's still a possibility that this price can even end up going all the way to this main seller's area here before we do see the price continue coming down. You can see how aggressive the sellers came in. Right now, if they don't have enough strength to actually come down lower and continue coming down, we could end up getting the prices coming back in one of these locations. So do make sure you're patient on that as we wait to see what ends up happening on the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So moving on to the next kind pair, we do have the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. Similar situation, brand new entry on our watch list. We can see the New Zealand dollar still showing its strength. So overall, our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities on this kind pair. You can see right now, we do seem to be in a trending market, but it does seem to be quite choppy. But overall, we are still seeing support and resistance areas being respected. So overall, we'll still be looking for buying opportunities on this kind of pair. Right now, we're in an area of interest. Ideally, we want to see if we can end up getting the price coming in a bit lower. And remember, in order for you to be able to read this detail, you might need to end up going down to a smaller time frame, possibly even the 3 minute. Because now on the 3 minute, you should be able to read the story of how the buyers and sellers are coming in. Ideally, if you are able to identify that the buyers are now coming in and the sellers are dying out, then we could end up finding a very nice buying opportunity. But remember, this level doesn't hold. We could still be coming back all the way to this red support and resistance area before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. So ideally, let's wait to see how this pullback comes in, and let's wait to see a sign of big boy buyers. Right now, even the way the sellers are coming in, I don't think it's ready just yet. We could end up finding the prices potentially still coming down a bit lower, coming all the way back within this buyer's area. Ideally, as long as the price ends up holding above that location, then we should be able to look for a very nice buying opportunity on the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. But for right now, let's be a bit patient. Let's see how these sellers come in, or let's see first within this particular area. Remember, if the buyers end up pushing up, then those times will come at 10, 3, and 4:30. That's when the big boy will actually show their face. So if at 10 o'clock, we don't see much of a reaction, then you know the London big boys are possibly not interested in this. We could wait for the US session, so to find out if the US big boys are going to be interested in this pair. Because remember, we're also dealing the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar is more active during the US session. So let's wait to see what ends up happening on this kind of pair. So hope that's clear on the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. As we move on to the next pair that we do have, which is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Now, on this kind of pair, our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. can see the New Zealand dollar strength coming in, similar situation with the euro weakness. So overall, we'll be looking for selling opportunities on this. We'll have these three areas. So the aggressive sellers are right here within the red support and resistance area. So overall, our bias here is to look for selling opportunities as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area. The price breaches and holds above the red SNR, then ideally this pair will fall off our watch list. Remember, we also point out one of the first things you also need to take note of is what is the market structure. Yes, we were coming down in a trend, but it seems like right now we do seem to be ranging within this level. So we wait to see what ends up happening. If we can end up getting a selling opportunity higher up, that would be the best choice for us. But as usual, if this level doesn't hold, where you can end up actually finding the price breaking, say to the downside and holds below, you should be able to look for selling opportunities there. But remember, try and use correlation. Wait to see when one New Zealand dollar pair works. Let's wait and see what ends up happening with the others. The fact that we had seen only one New Zealand dollar pair breaking to the downside, and that was the British pound against the New Zealand dollar, then ideally it must have something to do with the British pound pair. So if you look at any other British pound pair, British pound against the yen hasn't moved as much, but maybe you'll find the other yen pairs, you can see they do seem to be coming in a bit higher. So you know that the British pound, especially if you look at any other British pound pair, you can see even here the British pound against the US dollar. So this is definitely the British pound showing a lot of weakness. So you can be able to identify using correlation, just identifying to see where are the big boys actually putting their money. Right now, it definitely seems that they're trying to sell the British pound pairs. But we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Ideally, remember, we need to get that pullback. We never like chasing the market. And remember, 10 o'clock is coming in. So Frankfurt market, you could find that the initial move. You will find that by 10 o'clock, when price has pulled back, and it's within a nice area of interest for you to potentially look for another selling opportunity there. But for now, let's wait to see what ends up happening as we move on to the next and last New Zealand dollar pair we do have. So this, we do have the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Now remember, yesterday we did have this kind of pair, but initially we were looking for selling opportunities. You can see the areas that John had pointed out, but remember, once the London market did end up breaking this area to the upside, you can see by 10 o'clock, the price was already holding above here. What we wanted to see was the seller coming in, breaching and holding below here. But you can see the price came down and actually showed evidence that the price was holding above. As soon as it did that, this pair did fall off our watch list, and you can see the price did manage to continue going up higher. Even though we were not looking for any buying opportunities, ideally it just fell off our watch list for the sells. But today, since both the New Zealand dollar and the US dollar have switched sides, we can be able to look for buying opportunities on this kind of pair. So we'll be focusing on these three areas of interest. Right now, we're within an area of sellers, so definitely no buying opportunities anywhere close there. We can see a pullback is starting to come in, which is what we want to see. So hopefully we can end up getting this pullback coming in this particular area. Let's hope to see if we can end up getting some sort of probe or price action signal. So we want to see them coming in slowly, see the buyers potentially coming in for us to look for a buying opportunity there. But be aware, we are going to still be looking for buying opportunities as long as we're holding above this red support and resistance area. So let's see if we can end up getting this pullback coming in. If this first area doesn't hold, we'll be looking to see if we can grab our buying opportunities within this next area. If this level doesn't hold, then ideally this pair will fall off our watch list. So at least the probability of the buys coming in will not be there. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So moving on to the next kind of pair we do have. Here we do have the British pound against the Swiss franc. So you can see we'll mix and match the Japanese yen and the New Zealand dollar with all the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're moving on to the Swiss franc pairs. So we're going to mix and match all the pairs on the sell side with the Swiss franc. So starting off with the British pound against Swiss franc, brand new entry on our watch list, and you can clearly see what exactly is happening. You can definitely see this is a lot of weakness coming in on the British pound pairs. So the fact that we've just broken this area, and it does seem like it's very, very aggressive, the fact that they're coming to the downside. Let's see if we can end up getting this pullback coming in for us to look for those selling opportunities. But for now, definitely don't chase, because remember, if you start entering a sell now, where are you going to put your stop loss? And then where are you actually going to target? You don't want to start buying at such a low price. So in this situation, wait to see what ends up happening. Ideally, we are already approaching another support and resistance area. You can see there's an area where the buyers have held the market quite a bit. We could find maybe the market is approaching that particular location before it ends up giving us a pullback. But for now, the only thing that we can do is wait for that pullback to come in for us to look for selling opportunities. If the market has already started going, there's nothing for us to do. I mean, you can't chase after a plane if it's already on the air. Ideally, you have to wait for the next one, or at least wait to land before you're able to get on again. So it's a similar situation. This has already taken off. Let's wait for it to actually give us some pullback. And we'll be waiting right here at the bus stop, or is it the airport, for us to continue looking for those selling opportunities. But for now, we just need to be a bit patient, but we definitely can see the British pound is showing a lot of weakness. But don't start chasing the weakness now, because remember, we also have the interest rate news. So this Bank of England, MPC vote cuts, including the interest rate decisions, all this news gives a lot of volatility on the British pound pair. So just be careful about that. You could find the markets, or everyone is looking for sells. That news comes out positive, you could easily find the British pound pairs all the way up. So don't start chasing. Wait for that pullback, and let's wait for that information. So moving on to the next Swiss franc pair, we do have the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. This kind of pair here, our bias is to look for selling opportunities. Ideally, you can see where we are right now. We're within an area where they're biased, so definitely no selling opportunities right now. Let's hope to see if we can end up getting some sort of pullback coming in for us to look for selling opportunities, either within this seller's area right here in the middle, or could end up coming back all the way to the main sellers who started it. However, if this buyer's area doesn't hold, because you can see the buyers do seem to be struggling quite a bit, and that's the reason why overall, since we're looking for sells, even though sometimes you could find the pullback coming in, there's some of you who can end up taking those pullbacks, but it doesn't have a high probability of working. Could easily find the buyer struggling and easily seeing the price breaking to the downside, holding below for it to actually continue going down. So that's the reason why for us, we stick to one direction, not necessarily going to be looking for the buying opportunities. Hopefully, we can end up getting that pullback coming in. We should be able to look for a selling opportunity. But for now, we'll wait to see if we can end up getting this price breaching and holding below for us to continue looking. So hope that's clear on the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So moving on to the next Swiss franc pair, we do have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So now, similar situation, brand new entry on our watch list. And in this kind of pair, our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. But you can clearly see the area where we're at, we're within our bias area, so no trading opportunity just yet. Remember, you can be able to use correlation to be able to identify whether or not you can actually start taking trading opportunities. So if you do see that one pair, or let's say for this kind of pair, it starts actually breaking to the downside, and you see it pulling back and holding below, then can end up having a look at the other pairs. So you could end up finding after that, the market could end up coming down lower. But you could end up looking at the other kinds of pairs. If you see them doing the exact same thing, then you definitely know it's the Swiss franc. So now at that point in time, it's up to you to just pick one of the Swiss franc pairs to use to actually take that trading opportunity, or at least the one that looks the best. But for now, since we're within a buyer's area, we do need to be patient, because you could easily find all of them actually also giving you a pullback, coming back within this particular area. And you'll find that at 3:30, I'm sorry, at 3 or at 4:30, you could find that's the market within the seller's area. And that's when you could find the trading opportunity to come to the downside. So for now, let's just be a bit patient. Let's wait to see whether or not we can get the bridge to the downside, or whether or not the London big boys are actually going to give us a pullback before we are able to take those sells during potentially the US session. So moving on to the next currency pair, the Swiss franc pair we do have, which is the euro against the Swiss franc, brand new entry on our watch list. And you can start to see something that's happening with this pair that's different from the other pairs. So the fact that you can clearly see that the buyers, even though we're within a buyer's area, we're hoping to see either a pullback coming in, we can see this price is starting to reach this location to the downside. So remember, the story is pretty much the same. We want to see if the price can pull back and hold below for us to look for selling opportunity. Now, if you take note, the fact that the euro against Swiss franc is breaking to the downside, but none of these other ones have not yet broken, or you might find they actually start breaking, except the British pound against Swiss franc, then possibly it could have something to do with the euro. So when you look at the euro against the New Zealand dollar, what is happening? Is it actually showing that weakness? When you see, look at the euro against the yen, so you can start being able to identify that maybe the euro is starting to show some sort of weakness, similar situation with the British pound. So starting to use that correlation, but for now, let's wait to see. If we can end up getting this pullback coming in and holding below, then we should be able to find a nice selling opportunity. And you might find that this is the pair that's actually leading the Swiss franc pairs. You won't find them not all necessarily moving at the exact same time. I think we saw the British pound really going for the first time. I think the euro might end up being second. Then you might start finding that these other pairs will start breaking down later on. So they could end up giving you an indication that the markets are actually about to break that area. But we do need to wait for the market opening time or at least for that confirmation for us to actually continue looking for those sells. But for now, let's wait to see what ends up happening. Hopefully that pullback comes in and holds below, because if it does not and it comes back in and holds above, then chances are we could still be coming all the way back towards the support and resistance area. So if you do see the price breaking, or at least coming back in and holding above, then chances are it could be coming back towards this particular area before we're able to see a selling opportunity there. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the euro against the Swiss franc. So moving on to the next Swiss franc pair, we do have the US dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, yesterday we did have this kind of pair, but we were looking for buying opportunities. Today, the buyers have switched and we will be looking for sells. But in terms of looking for the buys yesterday, you can see the three areas that we had pointed out. Now, initially, the price was within an area where there are sellers, and you can clearly see the aspect that we keep on pointing out: buy with buyers, sell with sellers. You do not want to buy at a seller's area. You can see we're hoping to see the price breaking and holding above within this location. But unfortunately, the price managed to come down lower. Wanted to see whether or not we could end up getting the buying opportunity down here at the bottom. You can see the price still didn't manage to attempt to go up since we were within a small range. But later on, once the price broke this area to the downside, you can see that was at 3 o'clock during the US market open. So that just gives you more clarity that this level has actually been broken. Because at that point in time, if the price came back in and held above, you could have actually found a very nice buying opportunity. Unfortunately, remember the US fundamentals did switch, and it was exactly at 9 o'clock. You can see at 9, that's when it really showed that weakness coming in for the US dollar. So today, the bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So we pretty much changed our bias, because remember the Swiss franc was on the buy side, on the sell side, while the US dollar was on the buy side. But today they have switched. So overall, we're going to be looking for selling opportunities on this kind of pair. Let's wait to see if we can end up hopefully getting them pullback coming in for us to potentially look for a selling opportunity higher up. But remember, we've had a look at the other pairs. If we do end up seeing the market actually being able to breach this area to the downside, because we haven't seen the buyers are showing that much interest. But if the price is able to break this area to the downside and holds below, then we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities. And be aware, the conservative entries, if the price ends up getting towards, let's say, this price, then ideally this is a level where you should manage if the price ends up holding below. If it does manage to go slightly lower, then that's where the market turns, then that's where you can be able to manage your trade. Because you will find that at times that level becomes a major area of support, and you could find the price actually reacting and going up from there. So we also encourage you to make sure you manage your trades within such locations as well. So I hope that's clear for all the kinds of pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side. So right now, we're going to move on to the indices, including gold and silver. So you can realize that all our indices now have moved to the buy side, including gold and silver. Yesterday, we did have the NAS 100 on the sell side. So looking at it today on the NAS 100, overall, yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. But remember, with this, we are purely technical, meaning when the price was breaking and holding above the red SNR, then ideally our bias could have switched and we could have started looking for buying opportunities. And if you take note of 3 o'clock, the price was still holding below. But when the price broke and held above, you can see that was at 4:30. So there was a small buying opportunity then. Also later on, around 9 o'clock, during that news event, or at least the interesting news that did come out for the US dollar, showing that weakness. And that weakness is what you can clearly see brought this market to continue going up higher. So the fact that we breached the upside could have actually given us 2 buying opportunities yesterday. If we did miss that, that's okay. Because today our bias is now going to be looking for buying opportunities on this kind of step. So we'll be focusing on these 3 areas to potentially look for buying opportunities. Right now, we're within an area where the sellers, so definitely no buying opportunity just yet. These sellers could easily end up reacting, giving us a pullback. So hopefully we can end up getting that pullback coming in. The price ends up holding above within this first area, then we could end up looking for a buying opportunity here. If this level doesn't hold, be aware, we're still going to be looking for buying opportunities as long as we're holding above the red support and resistance area. So if the price comes in and still holds above this area, we could still find a buying opportunity. If the price is able to break this red support resistance area to the downside, then at that point in time, we actually switch our bias and start looking for selling opportunities. But for now, let's wait to see what ends up happening. If this level doesn't hold, even though we can see the sellers are starting to show a bit of aggression, but if the price is able to break and hold above, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities. Similar story we had pointed out, wherever the price manages to get to, even if you manage to grab a buying opportunity there, make sure you manage your trade within that particular area, because those sellers could end up still giving you a pullback and it could end up coming down lower. So do make sure you manage your trade within such locations. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the NAS 100, but it did end up giving us a nice buying opportunity yesterday. So looking at the US 30, so the Dow Jones, yesterday we were looking for buying opportunities. Still same situation today. We've just adjusted the level slightly. Can see the three areas, at least John had pointed out. This, let me just zoom out like that. Can see the three areas John had pointed out, looking for those buying opportunities. Now, but price did end up actually attempting to break this area to the upside during the London session. Wanted to see the price actually holding above, but you can see the price came down lower, attempted to come down again. So it was only at 4:30 that the price managed to actually come back in. So this one would have been a bit difficult to get, trying to grab your buying opportunity anywhere below here, but you can clearly see once the price was able to actually break this area to the upside, you can see once the price broke above, there was a nice wick where it did end up giving you confirmation that the price was holding above, which did give us a buying opportunity then. So even though that was the case, you can clearly see even today, the market has attempted to even go to the upside as well. But for now, we'll still be looking for buying opportunities on this pair. You can clearly see this huge probe that did end up coming in. So we will be focusing on this support and resistance area. These are level that we call true support and resistance area, concept we do teach within the masterclass course. So overall, we'll be looking for buying opportunities on this kind of pair based on these three levels. So aggressive buyers are going to be right here. So as long as we're holding above this red support and resistance area, our buyers is going to be looking for buying opportunities. Right now, we could end up getting this pullback coming in. And the fact that the sellers came down aggressive and the buyers are not necessarily showing that much, we can see the sellers coming down. Let's wait to see. Could end up easily finding the price attempting to break this area to the downside. Because remember, by the time that price breaks this area to the downside, most people are not jumping in on the sells then. They'll be jumping in on the sells when the price is all the way down here. And you could end up easily finding by that time, it's incited very many people to look for sells. You could realize that you're within also a small buyer's area. You could easily find the price probing and holding above. Similar situation to what happened yesterday, where it looks as if it's breaking to the downside, but it comes straight back in and shows confirmation that it's holding above. You do end up seeing that, could end up inciting very many people to look for sells, which is what we want as buyers. Because in order for us to buy, we need people who are actually willing to sell to us. So ideally, we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Can end up getting a nice buying opportunity. We should be able to manage our trade within this particular area. Not necessarily all the way till the top, because we have identified this. This does seem to be some sort of group. You can see there's a support and resistance area here that does seem to be holding. So there's a possibility the price could still approach this particular area and give some sort of reaction. But remember, as long as we're holding above the red SNR, our bias is to buy. If we break and hold below the red support resistance area, then at that point in time, we can actually switch our bias and start looking for selling opportunities on the Dow Jones. So hope that's clear as we move on to our fan favorites, at least the metals. So here we'll start off with silver. Now on silver, yesterday, you can see our bias was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today. So you can see the three areas that John had pointed out. So during the London market open, we're just holding below this particular area. So no buying opportunities. We wanted to see hopefully whether or not the price would come down lower. Sellers weren't able to do much. It was later on. So you can see at 3 o'clock, it attempted to break this area to the upside, where it did get a pullback, and at 4:30, it attempted to go to the upside again. But it did not take off until, if you realize, once the price pulled back, this is at 9 o'clock, once the same US fundamentals interest rates were coming out, and that weakness really did shoot this market to the upside. So overall, on silver today, buyers is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. We'll be focusing on these three areas to look for buys. Right now, we're pulled back to a very nice area of interest, but there's no buying opportunity just yet. You can see this seller right here is the one who has pushed down. If you compare how the seller has come down with the buyer, just because we're within an area, it doesn't mean that that trade is ready just yet. You do need to be a bit patient, or at least this seller is going to give you issues if you do end up managing to grab a buying opportunity. So wait to see. You can end up getting some sort of sign that the big boy buyers are actually there and the sellers are actually tired. So if the sellers do come in quite slowly, then we do end up seeing the buyers coming in. Maybe we could end up seeing a potential buying opportunity then. But if not, within this location, be aware that the price can still pull back all the way to this main buyers area. But do take note, we do have some sort of small support and resistance areas as well can see there's some sort of area right there as well that you could easily find the market rather than just going till there, could end up pulling back all the way till there before you do find the buyers coming in. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. But overall, our bias here is still to look for buying opportunities. Because remember, we are holding prices right now is above the red support resistance area. The price goes below this red SNR, and at that point in time, that's when we'll start looking for selling opportunities. So I hope the game plan is clear on what we're looking at on silver. Remember also, if the price breaks and falls above the red support and resistance, sorry, the yellow support and resistance area to the top, the conservative area, we can be able to continue looking for buying opportunities as well. So hope that's clear as we move on to the last and not least currency pair, or at least metal that we mainly look at. So here we do have gold. So now on gold, yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. It still is the same situation today. So you can see the three areas that John had pointed out. Now, in the case of gold, we did manage to actually break this area to the upside during the London session and was actually holding above within this area. Now, initially wanted to see if the price was actually going to take off. It only started attempting to take off at 4:30 because you can see the London big boys not necessarily as interested at 3 o'clock. The big boys weren't interested at that point in time. 4:30, it showed some interest. Even though it pulled back, it only took off, as you can see, at 9 o'clock once the fundamentals did come out. Because that's the reason why sometimes you need that catalyst. So we mentioned these times, 10, 3, and 4:30, but also have a look at if there's some high impact news events, you could end up seeing some big movements. And that's the same thing that's happening with the British pound pairs today. So at 2 p.m., do end up expecting there could be some huge movements coming in on the chart at that time. So do make sure you manage your trade then. But you can see the price did manage to continue going up. So overall here, buyers is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. So we've adjusted the level slightly. We'll be looking for buying opportunities as long as we're holding above this red support and resistance area right here. So overall, buyers is to look for buys. You can see the market attempted to break this area, gave a probe. So the fact that the buyers are coming in right now, you can see they're coming in quite slowly. Hopefully, we could end up getting the price maybe giving us more of a pullback, potentially coming back within this area, showing the evidence that the price is actually holding above and incites many people to look for sales before we're able to look for buying opportunities. So we'll be waiting to see what happens within this first location. Even though we have these areas, you can see there's also some sort of support and resistance area right here. So even though this level doesn't hold, you could easily find the market spiking to such levels before you see the prices holding above. So overall, we'll be waiting to see what ends up happening. But if we are in the event that the market is able to actually break this area to the upside, and we see the price holding above, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on gold. So I hope that's clear for everyone. As you can clearly see, we've mixed and matched all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side, including having a look at gold, silver, as well as the indices. So I can be able to address any questions if there are any. So seeing Alan Ronan saying, hi, mate. Thanks a lot. Karibu sana, Alan. Glad that you're here as well with the vote of thanks. I'm seeing Caroline Moniki saying, good morning. I would like to see the watch list. Thanks. So here is the watch list for today. So you can end up being able to take a screenshot of this. We're focusing on these three pairs, the yen, the New Zealand dollar, and the Swiss franc, looking for buying opportunities, mixing and going to mix and match them with all these pairs on the sell side. So you can be able to take a screenshot of that. But remember, you can also be able to follow us on our social media platforms, especially on YouTube. You can be able to come back, rewatch it, check what exact levels did we have. So you can be able to pause. If you want to end up going double speed, you can be able to skipping to specific pairs that you want. At least that's available. And remember, if you do manage to end up watching our content on YouTube, do make sure you end up liking and then subscribing as well. It does really help out the channel a lot. So fundamentals, we do end up having a bit today. As you can see, apart from the fundamentals at 2 p.m. for the British pound, which are going to be a really high impact, we still also have some British pound news, 11:30. We also have some euro fundamentals. We do end up expecting there will be some movements on the charts today, definitely. So seeing a question. So Stephen Gitonga asking to show CAD yen. Now, the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen is a pair that we're going to be looking at today. Our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Either a breach, if this ends up giving us a probe and comes back in and holds below, and end up looking for a sell. But if not, we'll be looking to see if we can grab our selling opportunity higher up within this particular area. Right? So you can be able to take a screenshot of that. But remember, this video will be, or at least the recording of this will be available on YouTube. Within the next 10, 15 minutes or so, you should be able to find it there. So if you've missed any pairs, or at least if you've missed any pair, you can be able to go review on that as well. So I'm not seeing any more questions, which is okay. We do need to jump onto the charts as well. 5 minutes too. Remember, 10 o'clock, we do end up expecting some volatility on a number of things. So wait to see what ends up happening there. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Seeing also being asked for ESPN. Here it is, looking for selling opportunities. Pretty much the same story, AK, right? So you can be able to take a look at that. But remember, as I did mention, our YouTube channel, you can find it, Afriforex, on YouTube. Can be able, don't forget to like and subscribe on that as well. And you will be able to find all this content there. So once again, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. If you guys have found value in these sessions, remember, if you do have any questions, reach out to us. Our contact details are there in the chat box. If you do manage to take any setups based on things that we have shared today, feel free to send them in to us. We want to celebrate your wins with you as well. We also want to make sure that you guys are also doing the right thing. If there's any way that we can end up helping you, we will be able to do that. And there should be a link right there in the chat box for all our resources as well. Just one link you can be able to click, and it should be able to take you through all our resources. So I think it's called Tab Bio. So you should be able to, apologies for that. Seems that have something, yeah. So here it is. So you can be able to find all our links right here. So if you want the daily analysis, you want the masterclass, you want an MT5 account, you want to go to the Telegram channel, everything is right there. And remember the fact that we also have the AMP course, or at least the program, the slots are really filling up very quickly. So do make sure, if you have not managed to sign up, feel free to end up clicking on the link and giving a sign up, and we'll make sure to give you a call to find out how interested you are. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hope you guys have an amazing trading day. God bless. Cheers, guys, and bye for now. Happy trading.